Good afternoon. This is Luther P40. This is going to be part two of the how-to video. I apologize for the way that ended. I wasn't able to watch the time. But what I was trying to say here, when you're working on this tube, before you install this cap, which I wish I had done now, but I didn't realize it was a problem until after I assembled it, is that you're going to want to, where this top edge is, you're going to want to bevel it in or taper it in all the way around. The only purpose of that is so that when this outside tube comes down, it will self-center and come all the way down to the bottom of this tank right here. And what I ended up doing after this was assembled like this, and I had the thing right where I wanted it to be, what I ended up doing is I took this tube and I threw it in here, put it in here. So think of it as a 4-foot tube completely. Put it in here, and I made a mark all the way around where this is where I wanted the tube to be, and then I just added enough distance for this cap. So you'd basically put the tube in and you'd mark it and give you enough room for this cap. And in this case, I want to say it's like 7/16 of an inch. And that's where I made a second mark, and that's where I cut it off. And then since I cut it off, I used the length. The cutoff is going to be the bottom, and the part that the factory cut is going to be the top. And you just put this cap on here. The only thing you have to deal with is this cap. Is you have to seal up the hole where the end of the fluorescent tube would normally come out, and you don't want anything heavy. The whole purpose is you want this assembly, this tube and this end cap, to be as light as possible. You don't want the weight. You want to avoid making this be too heavy. And right here, I'm a poor judge of weight, but this feels like maybe at the most 1 or 2 ounces, maybe a couple of grams, I would think. After you have that installed, after you got that installed, you just add your hose to it. You just sticks it right in here, and it just attaches right here, like that. And as long as you feel that it's tight right here on this fitting right here, if it's not right now, mine I'd taken a little bit of tape off, so it's a little bit loose. But you want to make sure that it's friction tight, then it's not going to move on you. And at this point, you could probably glue that down if you wanted to make it permanent. Like I said, I like tape. I like being able to take stuff apart and cleaning it. That way I can clean it and disinfect it or whatever. And then that's basically how it goes together. And the way you would do this, when you're filling this up with water, you're going to want to you'll want to have your finger over this hole, and if you fill it up to the top, you can fill it up the top just so that it's filled up, but you don't want any of the water to go inside this center part. What's going to happen if you fill it up to the top? The very first time you put this in here, it's going to overflow. So when you go to add water, you might want to be outside, and at least that way it'll tell you how much water you need. And then, like I said, the only purpose of the water is a seal, so that when air is coming up to this pipe, the center pipe, and it pushes on the inside of this tube right here, when it's pushing on the inside of this tube, you'll notice that the air can't go out that end, and the only place it can go out on this end is pushing against the water. So when what it's doing is it's pushing against the water to get out. What ends up happening is that the tube gets pushed up instead. So in other words, you got the gas is pushing at the top and pushing against the water at the same time, and the more gas you put in here, the further this extends. And when I got this, like I said, when I got this to the house, this ended up to be, I poured 1 liter in here to get an idea how long it needed to be, and 1 liter of water comes to about 3 foot. And that's basically what I'm saying, is if you want to measure 1 liter, you're going to have to be about 1 meter long. So And the only thing left to do is to calibrate it, and probably the simplest way to calibrate it is to seal it up upside down and start making marks. Pour like 100 milliliters in there, make a mark. Pour another 100 milliliters in there, make a mark, and continue on. Now, one thing about a straight tube. Is once you know your major markers are, so like 100 millimeters, 200 millimeters, or say you got say you had 500 milliliters, a mark here for 100 for the beginning, and then you went down here for 500 milliliters. You can take a you can divide this thing up, just measure with tape measure, and mark out the individual marks in between, and then you'll be able to fill it up to those marks and fill it up and actually test it to make sure that it's accurate. But a straight tube like this, with the diameters are always the same top to bottom, your marks will always be the same relative position to the next one, all the way down there. So that's one of those anomalies of working with straight tubes. So yeah, I hope you like it. I'm pretty sure I haven't forgot too much. If you got any questions, feel free to leave a message on there, and I'll do what I can to fill out answer any questions. But like I said, the important parts is the diameter of this tube. Like I said, you want this to be light as can be. It don't have to be this flushing tube, but to be honest with you, I don't know what else you can find that's like this. If you can find something that's similar to this, maybe in a larger diameter, more power to you, because that allow you to measure more. It allow your device to be much shorter. The important elements is the diameter of this inside cap, the outside diameter of this inside cap, because it needs to match just barely smaller than your plastic tube, and the inside diameter of the outside tube. It needs to be just slightly larger than the tube. So, alright, I think I've wasted enough of your time. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. This is Luther P40 signing off. Take care.